Hello and welcome to the 2015 debut of Technology in the Arts. I'm Brian Kelley.
And I am John LeMasney.
And I'm not sure how much of that actually got on the air because the live thing came up after I started talking, but I heard the ding, so I started talking.
Well, why don't you go ahead and start over?
No, we'll fix it in editing.
All right.
It'll give me something to do.
I see what's going on.
What? Why did I suggest bringing this back? So, anyway, we are back, and we're going to do something a little different this time around. I kind of had this idea of collaborating on a musical project, and it's a long story. I'll explain it later. But for various reasons, I suggested to John that we get the Technology in the Arts webcast / podcast back together, and this time it would be like a behind the scenes look at the creative process, or at least this creative process, and doing a music project. We're going to work on one song, and the whole way is going to be documented here. We'll figure out what genre, what our influences, what we're listening to, and try to figure out what direction we're going, what we're going to use. I still haven't worked that out as far as how we can collaborate.
I have some interesting ideas for you, my friend.
Well, I have a few too. Unfortunately, I didn't get them listed together to go over them, but I have some things that
we can talk them through, I think.
Yeah, that's what we can do. So that's where we are, and we're I don't know how long the series is going to last, and we may not be every week, maybe every couple weeks, depending on our progress. But let's see how it goes. We'll figure it out from there. But so that's what we're going to do with this season of Technology in the Arts. But John, I know you have some things to say, and we have to get our viewers caught up on what's been going on for the past year or so.
Well, I think the most interesting thing for me recently is that I've entered into art as a regular expression. And one of the ways this has happened was through like the Princeton Parklet. And if you're familiar with the Princeton Parklet, there are some maple seeds hanging above it, in addition to other pieces throughout it. And but the maple seeds were ones that I designed and that I worked with 3 other artists in order to bring to reality. And it's been a real inspiration for me. And in one of the cases, one of the artists, Robert Custer, who is at Bellmead Hot Glass, bellmeadhotglass.com, he and I have been working after the project in order to do some other artistic and sculptural projects. And one I just wanted to show you is a continuation of seeds, right? So you're familiar with that kind of a seed, right?
Yeah.
That is a sweet gum seed. And look at the beautiful stem on that, right? And the beautiful sort of pointy shape of it. So what happened was we started working.
Beautiful stem.
I'm sorry?
It is a beautiful stem.
It's a beautiful stem, especially when it's like
early vine. That might be our early vine cut.
Yeah. Well, you know, when it's 5 feet long, it's very beautiful.
Yeah. Yes.
So anyway, we're working with pentagons, and we're making pentagon-based round shapes, and then we are cutting the metal out using a CNC and cutting a pattern onto the metal like that, and then bending the shapes up like that. And it started off much differently. We were actually just punching through the metal, and we made this really interesting shape. The only problem was it didn't look anything like our sweet gum seed. So anyway, that's been an interesting process and project. And it's been exciting for me to sort of think through sculptural problems again. So that's sort of what's been going on with me as far as technology and art. And I've been introduced to a lot of new technologies in this process with Robert, as far as glass blowing and computer-aided cutting of metal. It's been a really interesting process.
Excellent. Anything else?
A whole bunch, but I have a feeling that we'll have lots of opportunities to talk about lots of things. In short, if you want to see the kinds of projects I'm working on right now, you can always go to LeMasney.com.
Excellent. I have, well, I mean, the only thing that's happened since the podcast went away is my second son was born in March.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And then, actually, just yesterday, I did the Heightstown triathlon, a sprint triathlon, for the second year in a row. And that was this, in spite of the fact that my summer that I had planned to train during, in July, a couple of days after my birthday, I was going up my steps in the house, and the hardwood landing at the bottom, I somehow my foot just slipped off of it. I went flying into the wall, and my left hand slammed into the molding that goes around the stairwell, and it broke the fourth metacarpal on my left hand. So I had no left hand and couldn't get any swimming or any bicycling and really any running in until like really late in the process. So I was pretty out of shape, but still managed to finish. And it didn't help that yesterday morning at 5:15 in the morning, before I left, I got sick, and it was bad. But I said, okay, well, I got it out of my system. I'm going to still do this triathlon, and that was a mistake.
Literally. And
that was a mistake. I spent most of the day in bad shape yesterday. So just the fact that I am up and doing this, I'm okay with. And the triathlon went okay, except I got through the swim. I got through the bike ride. Was actually I only did 2 practice bike rides for this, and it was the best time of those rides. And the swim was actually like 3 minutes better than I thought I'd do without any real training and any practice swims, except for the day before the event. But the run was where, just the hitting the ground, that was making the stomach act up again, and I was like, crap. So I had to walk a lot of the distance. I mean, it was like a 35-minute 5K, which is like, I haven't done that in years. Like maybe like, I don't know, 5 years ago. That might have been like my 5K time then. It was pretty awful, but I finished. So that's all. I can't
tell you the last time I ran for any distance at all. I think I ran across the parking lot about 2 months ago.
Well, you know what? I wish I had the time of my run to the train after work today than I did yesterday, because I'm pretty sure I was running faster for the train today.
You need a Fitbit so that you can capture those steps too.
Yeah, well, I could do it on my Nike Plus too, but or my Nike Running, whatever it's called. So anyway, that's oh well, and because my hand was broken, I haven't done much musically. And that's kind of why I was thinking of this whole collaboration thing, because I couldn't really do anything. And I had these ideas in my head, and, I could put some one-handed stuff together, and, but, I was like, oh, I need like a second hand. And I think literally I was thinking that, and I was like, I haven't written anything with anybody in ages, since Christian Beach, we've had on the show, and I, we're writing together. And speaking of which, a few weeks ago, even with my broken hand, I somehow managed to play the keys on the accordion on a few songs for him at a gig in Toms River, New Jersey. which is at a really nice event, by the way. It's the Toms River Artist Community Art in the Park. It was the 3rd annual event, and it's pretty cool. Like there's a gazebo there where they have the bands playing, and there's just a bunch of different artists, you know, showing off their stuff. And
incidentally, do you know anything about something going on in Hopewell in October, like October 3rd? Some kind of an arts music festival thing?
you know, I think I did hear about something, but I haven't looked into it yet.
Yeah, I think it's in the US one. I haven't laid hands on one recently, but I heard that I need to look in that for that.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I'll do the same. I'll see what I can find out.
Okay.
So, yeah, so that's kind of where this came from. I was just kind of thinking back to those days when you know, I had a collaborator on a project, and I wanted to bring technology and the arts back, and my hand healed, so I can kind of be a little more flexible on the keys. So I figured I'd ask you if you wanted to do this. And you know, I know music isn't your primary skill or artistic talent, but I know it's there. And I don't even know if it's mine. You know, it's like my. I mean, technically, I probably have no artistic skill, but music is probably the closest thing I have. So obviously writing, but
Yeah,
but
I love the idea of collaboration. It's really interesting because when we start to talk about process, I think I've had a few interesting experiences that will help us to get past the who owns what, who does what kind of a thing by introducing little bits of chaos and chance and also distance. The fact that we're probably going to be working electronically means that the process is sort of directed by that.
yeah, I mean, it's so funny when you talk about chaos and chance. And I don't know if I ever told this story, but when Christian and I were working together, and we were doing this this song, and at the, you know, we were working with our sequencer, and we were gonna have this thing at the end where it was supposed to just be this the bass line and something else, another noise, but the drums are supposed to fade out. But for some reason, there was like one MIDI channel that was on the same, like I accidentally set a MIDI channel to what the drums are on, and it created this cool like rhythm that was totally like spontaneous. Like we couldn't have programmed this thing with any intelligent thought or design, but somehow it was perfect. It was like this perfect like drum pattern, but it was like using all these like weird percussion sounds, and I wish I had the full thing. I only have like a small snippet of it surviving on a cassette tape, but to me that was like the coolest thing ever. Like we ever worked on was when this thing accidentally came out, and it was perfect.
Cool. Well, I guess my experience with chaos was more directed. So this was when I was pursuing my BFA in sculpture, and I was collaborating with a painter, and we were supposed to make a sculptural painting. We were going to collaborate, and that was the only direction we were really given. And we didn't really know how each other worked. And so we devised this chaos-based system where we would have certain outcomes predetermined about what would happen, such as like where on the piece we would place something. There were quadrants on the piece. And so we had an 8-sided die, and we could roll the 8-sided die to say the next thing that is added to the piece is going to be in quadrant 2. So, for example, even down to that degree, we predetermined what would happen and then let chaos like determine what happened within that. and we loaded the deck. Like, we would always choose good outcomes, predetermined good outcomes, no matter what. But the order in which they were applied and the manner in which they were applied were completely like chance based, and it was such a cool project just for the process of it. And the piece probably would have benefited from somebody going in and saying, you know, arranging certain things on it, and we would be able to do that. But I would love to try to do things like determine beats per minute, and then like we could determine it for opening, for changes, for, you know, whatever, and have those beats per minute predetermined, and then choose randomness or allow randomness to say, this is going to be a fast song, this is going to be a middle speed song, this is going to be a slow song.
Yeah, that I'm open to anything at this point. You want to talk about influences, what we've been listening to? Is that, you want to get into
Absolutely.
that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have to figure out a direction.
But if we were introducing chance as a factor, we might be able to predetermine like 3 or 4 genres.
Well, exactly. Yeah, I'm not saying. Yeah. I'm not saying we stick to any one genre. We can, you know.
I'm saying even if it ends up being one, but we could say, let's say that we both agreed that we would want electronic versus acoustic or whatever. Then we could start to go in one direction versus another based on the flip of a coin.
Right. Right.
So, but I mean, let's talk more generally, sort of about what we've been listening to, what we're interested in.
All right. You wanna start off?
Sure. I've been paying a lot of attention, more so than typically recently, on Radiohead, and I guess this is a plug. I'm working with Craig Smith of the Pods and Sods Network in order to do a series in which we investigate every album that Radiohead put out, because we have such an affection for that band. And so I've been listening to a lot of Radiohead, more so than usual. I listen mostly, I think, to a lot of electronic dance music. I like steady rhythms and almost mind-numbing patterns, you know, things that are not necessarily too interesting, but just like a beat to keep you going at a certain speed. And then I've been listening to a lot of pop and hip-hop, and really enjoy that too. And then every once in a while I'll even listen to like top 40 and just see what's going on there, or like popular independent songs. And I always rely on you to give me good influence too. I have this great playlist that you made me, and I listen to it often.
Yeah, I think I let my my Google Play lapse, which
it still works. I mean, it's sitting right next to the rest of my playlists.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I've been listening to whoa. I've been listening to a lot of oh, there's the smoke. I've been listening to a lot, or the vapor. I've been listening to a lot of Neon Indian, his latest album, which actually isn't supposed to be out yet. iTunes messed up. It was supposed to come out in October, and for some reason, the people who pre-purchased it got it like last week. But I've been listening to it. I didn't realize it until after I had listened to it like 4 or 5 times, and then I started feeling guilty because, you know, iTunes kind of screwed the artist, you know, a little bit. But I mean, what
a surprise, Brian! What a surprise!
Yeah, I know. I mean, I paid for it, and the people who pre-ordered it paid for it. It's just, you know, the artist sets a release date, and, you know, he figures that's the date it's going to come out. But all these people got it for, you know, about a month ahead of time. But the album's awesome. I mean, it's just, and it's funny. There was just a story that he posted on Facebook today, I think. There was an interview. Was it with, I'm not going to say which media outlet it was because I'm not quite sure, but
it was Fox News.
No, it was one of the music.
It was Time Magazine.
Sources. It was like a Paste or a Pitchfork, one of those.
It was In Touch.
But excuse me. Sorry. I'm getting over a cold too. So So
Was it Sneezy Monthly?
no, so what happened was Alan Palomo, I think is how you pronounce his name. Palomo? Not sure how you pronounce his name.
Columbo?
Who is Neon Indian?
Columbo?
He a few years ago he had a third album, because this is his third album. I think 2011 was Era Extraña was the second one, which had Polish Girl on it, which is like one of my favorite songs ever. And then his debut, which was like the really chill wave one, with Terminally Chill and Deadbeat Summer on it. Can't remember anything else from the titles, but so this would have so what would have been his third album was on the demos were on his laptop, and he got extremely drunk. He knocked on the door of his apartment. His roommates obviously weren't there or were sleeping or whatever. I don't remember exactly what was, but he passed out on the stoop of his building, and when he woke up, his laptop was gone, and all like 2 years worth of work on this album was gone. And so he needed like a couple.
And so, long story short,
Well, he needed a little bit to reboot, but he went back to his early club mixing roots, and this is like it's like crazy chill wave meets disco meets, you know, there's some pop elements too. Like one song, I mean, it's like probably like the best Prince song that's come out in ages. I mean, but it's not by Prince. It sounds like a Prince song, like a classic Prince song. So there's a lot of interesting stuff on it. It goes into different genres. I mean, at least genres of electronic music.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like there's like it's almost thematic. Like he talks about his experiences in film scoring, and so he kind of approached this album as a film. So like there's stories in these songs. So it's kind of interesting. You don't really get that from a disco electronic album.
Oh, I do. I mean, it depends on the album, I guess. But like Daft Punk, for example, their latest album is incredibly storytelling.
Well, yeah. But
or some of the more electronic things that are going on with Radiohead, the remixes especially definitely hold the stories that are being told in the originals, just in more definitively rhythmic ways.
Well, I just so I guess we'll share some links. I guess Tame Impala is another one I've been listening to lately.
Cool.
And have you heard any of the new?
I have not recognized. At least I may have heard it, but I don't recognize any of the
and now that the title of the song that's been like going, that's been like the big summer song on XPN. Oh, Make It Happen is the name of it.
I probably have heard it.
Yeah, it's I think it's like 7 or 8 minutes long, the full version. But it's weird. There's all these different there's like these, like you mentioned, there's some like chaotic things going on. Like there's these like where they kind of just stop it's like a start-stop thing.
Okay.
Like in the middle of the song. Like it's kind of hard to explain. And
so
this time
is there any chance that you could go back to subscribing to Google Play Music?
Yeah, I can do it. I just, actually, no, it's another long story, but there's a reason why it lapsed, and then I just never renewed it. But
I've had that problem myself twice actually, and let it lapse, and then like really missed it.
Yeah. Well,
and then went back to it.
Well, this was the fact that the credit card it was using, was used for parking a couple of times in Chicago. And
exactly the same thing happened to me.
So yeah, so
and when your number changes, your whole life changes.
Yeah. So I'll definitely re-up that, and then we can kind of work with that. We can share playlists of influences.
Cool. Well, and maybe even have the playlist just be about songs that we would have liked to have made,
Yeah.
you know, or like things that we think that we could do or emulate in the interest of coming up with something original and creative and all those things.
Yeah. Yeah. And Big Black Delta is another one.
Okay.
And I
Yeah,
saw,
share it because
yeah,
yeah, until I hear it, it's not going to make any sense.
he, it's kind of, he opened for Gary Newman when I saw him. Was that last year? I guess it was last year when I saw him open for Gary Newman in Philadelphia.
Cool.
And he's another one who had all his gear stolen. I think somebody broke into his apartment and stole all his gear, and had to do it. There was like a crowdfunding thing, and he put out a song on SoundCloud like a couple months ago to thank everybody for their support during that. And it's kind of cool. There's like it's like that Gary Newman harshness, you know,
Yeah.
that darkness, but then
Uh-huh.
there's like this 70s almost like Fleetwood Mac thing going on, and it's really cool.
I'll have to share that too.
Yeah, so that's another one. I've been
My
listening to.
my only other question, I guess, is how we can have a work file before we have the product file. And I'm thinking, if at all possible, maybe we could use Audacity.
Well, I was thinking Audacity could be in it, could be part of the solution. I did try to find some open source audio and MIDI recording, so we could have the best of both worlds.
Have you ever heard of Audio Tool?
No, I didn't come up with that one, but
Audio Tool is cloud based, but if I'm not mistaken, it does have MIDI interfacing.
okay, I'll take a look at it.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that happens right in front of you, like on your, it's like there's a lot of components that are downloaded that you have direct access to from your desktop, and then whenever you save it, of course, it saves up to the cloud.
All right, I'll look into that. I have downloaded, I've installed on my Mac a couple of software options. Ardour,
Yeah, Ardour is a fantastic tool.
and LMMS, which I'm not sure what that.
Yeah, LMMS, I thought was just an audio player. I could be wrong.
No, I think I looked at that. I haven't had a chance to go into either application, but I'm pretty sure it was.
You should really take a look at Audio Tool. It's a pretty amazing. I mean, have you ever used Propellerhead's Reason?
Just demoing it.
Yeah, I had bought Reason and really loved it, but that was years ago, and I figured that I wasn't going to spend the money for Reason again. And then Audio Tool came along, and it's essentially a free Reason-like interface online. You have to see it. You have to hear what they're producing with it. It's like a social media platform too. I mean, people share their music and then offer for you to remix it in Audio Tool.
Well, I'll definitely check that out.
And I would really like this product to be shared in the same way if we can.
Yeah, and I definitely want to stay away from proprietary with this.
We're trying to teach people what they might encounter, like problem solving about songwriting, right?
Right.
And we're also doing it over a distance. I mean, if we need to get together, we want to do something in sync, maybe for like a melody or something, I don't know what, then that would be interesting to get together. But for the most part, because of our schedules, if nothing else, we're going to be doing this mostly by sharing files.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And I think that's the technology component of.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's that's how I kind of envision it, and and I know I usually just because it's convenient, I just plop everything in GarageBand, but I don't want to use that for this
Yeah,
project.
if you do it in GarageBand and export to whatever GarageBand's editing format is with its tracks, etc., I'm not going to be able to do anything with it.
Right. It doesn't, you know, doesn't make sense.
Whereas if we use Audacity or anything else, we'll be able to share those files. No cost is incurred by either one of us.
Right.
And we'll be able to edit at will.
And as you kind of alluded, we want to educate, and you know, we've pretty much stayed with the you know, the open source theme with, you know, using the Google Hangouts, and you know, or at least not the whatever. You know, for all of our projects, we've, you know, you've always demonstrated the open source application. So I wanted.
Yeah, I think it brings down barriers that otherwise exist. And like, you know, I tell people all the time about graphic design or photo manipulation. Like, you don't need to spend money. You just need to have the right tools. Mm-hmm. And the same is true for music creation. If somebody thinks that in order to make a rich sound, you need expensive anything, you really just need a computer that's in front of you. If you don't have a computer, there's a lot of things you're missing out on. But if you have a computer, chances are you have everything you need to make great music.
Or a easel computer.
Or an easel computer. The other thing that I thought was it might be interesting if we collaborate on a musical instrument. And I'm thinking if we were to do like Raspberry Pi or Arduino, if you and I talked about what needed to happen in order to have this musical instrument like work with this song, like it would just be created just for this song, we could do some interesting things, and we could both have a version of the instrument. I mean, this is kind of like, who knows how much effort this would be, but it doesn't necessarily need to be a lot of effort. And I'm sure I have all the parts that we would need in order to do something like this.
I'm imagining some kind of not a theremin, but the instrument that was used on Good Vibrations that everybody thinks is a theremin, but it's not. It's that ribbon based.
Yeah, I mean, but all a theremin is two sensors and a microcontroller, so and a speaker.
Yeah, I guess actually we could do a theremin.
We could. A theremin would be relatively easy to do, but there are much more sophisticated things we can do too. Like we could have samples and have essentially like a soundboard, or we could have a software-based interface in which, you know, we could have a theremin controlled on screen or something like that.
You're poo-pooing my dream of playing a theremin.
Oh, you can play a theremin, but I mean, theremins are theremins. You could recreate a theremin, but I was thinking about making something that was specifically for this song. Like if there was a way to have the you know how like somebody sits down with a guitar and plays an acoustic version of a song and sings, and like it doesn't have all the orchestration and it doesn't have all the backbeat and it doesn't have all that, but it has the core part of the song.
Right, yeah.
I think it would be interesting if this instrument was able to play the core part of the song, and then like everything else we do is sort of on top of that.
Okay.
But just a thought.
Okay. Well, I mean, that means we have to create the instrument first.
No, not necessarily, because we could recreate the instrument based on what we come up with in the song.
Okay.
But it's like I said, first things first. We have a lot of work to do.
Yeah. Yep. So, all right. So let's say we're almost approaching 11 here.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I'm at 11% on my laptop. So if I suddenly drop out, I'm just going to say goodnight now.
Yeah. Well. Okay.
Good night,
So
everybody.
Yeah. I'll just splice that in at the end. So okay. All right. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna I'll get Google Music back, and we'll share some playlists of songs things that we would like this maybe to sound like, and
yeah, things that we feel like would be a good product.
Yes, and then and if it's not on Google Music, like something like the Big Black Delta thing, I think is only on like SoundCloud right now. So So,
Well, even on Google Music, you should be able to upload your music and share it.
that's true. Okay, I'll see what I can do. So, all right. So we'll do the Google playlist, and then, we'll
We'll start a shared document where we talk about what we've talked about and sort of build upon it.
Yes.
And it'll be like a running log of like what we decided to do.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So that's where we are. We're gonna discuss influences and sort of, I guess, get into direction next week or next installment.
Next installment, we'll talk about schedule offline.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So for Technology and the Arts, this is Brian Kelley.
And this is John LeMasney. Take care.
All right. Good night.
Bye.